want to learn how to make them so I can cook them back in Finland.
I think I need 2 more.
John Montango, the Duke of Sandwich, was stuck at a gambling table and unwilling to leave it for a break. He asked the servant for something that could be eaten on the side, so that they would not interrupt the game. His cook brought him meat stuffed between 2 pieces of bread. The Duke was an instant fan, and the dish became popular, eventually being named after the town where he originally was from. Every corner of the world has had its fair share of happy accidents when it comes to food. The Pearl of Africa is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rolex. Before we can discuss the business around this staple, let's go a little while back in Busogaland. The Ugandan Rolex gets its name from a linguistic corruption of rolled eggs, as coined by speakers of Uglish, a version of English with strong influences from Uganda and other local languages. Legend has it that on one night evening, a roadside food vendor had run out of polythene bags to pack the customer's order, which were an assortment of chapati, samosas, cassava, and an omelette. The customer agreed to have them all packed into the one remaining bag since they all collectively constituted his supper. The vendor got a little creative in optimizing the space of the one bag, and that's when it clicked. He offered the style combination to a bunch of his other customers in the days and weeks to come, and everyone loved it. In true Ugandan fashion, the idea was copied by other food vendors and quickly became popular among college students on campus who always were in demand for a quick meal because of time and budget limitations. And just like the John Montango sandwich story, the rest is history. The Rolex is not the only food snack on the Ugandan street menu. So what makes it special, and why has it become such a success story? The efficiency surrounding the Rolex is quite frankly underrated, to say the least. It's cheap and easy to make for the food vendor. It's cheap for just about any customer. It can be prepared differently depending on the customer's choice. It's tasteful, and most of all, it's filling. Low cost, high gain, a dangerous combination for anyone on a budget, which is almost everyone in a third world country, which is what the Rolex gave. And from there the network effect took over, with even tourists wanting to associate themselves with the local delicacy.
First thing when I came to Uganda, I tried them.
So say you're an investor with a little bit of cash. Well, good news is we have just a perfect venture for you with far less than $1 million shillings needed to start. To break down the cost of a Rolex stand, we shall need 2 classifications: setup costs and operating costs. The setup costs. Materials for a stall, including their transportation, is 200,000. Labor for building the stall, 50,000. Laboring and design works, 70,000. Chair and a bench, 40,000. Glass box, 150,000. Stove, 30,000. Frying pan, 20,000. Rolling pin, 3,000. Plastic cup, 1,000. Wooden table, 70,000. Knife, 2,000. Apron, 10,000. Jerrycan, 10,000. Basin, 5,000. Washing can, 10,000. Broom, 1,000. Trash bin, 5,000. Operating costs. Monthly rent can range from 50,000 shillings to 200,000 shillings depending on the setup location that you've chosen. Salary, 10,000 per day. Flour, 7,000 each packet. Eggs, 9,000 per tray. Cooking oil, 7,000 per liter. Cabbage, 500 each. Onions, 100 each. Salt, 1,000. Charcoal, 10,000. Water, 300 shillings per jerrycan. As you can tell, it costs about 800,000 shillings to open and start running such a business. But let's talk about the return on investment. It's standard for the owner of a Rolex joint to collect 10,000 shillings in clean profit at the end of every day, while the hired operator, depending on how well or poorly the day has gone, pockets the difference so that they have an incentive to make the sales. In a little over 2 months, you have recovered your capital and you can now start enjoying the passive income. Passive in the sense that there is nothing much you do as the owner except check on it every evening as you collect your money. In fact, you could play the long game and have multiple joint locations as long as they are near a trading center, a bar, or a club. The challenge with operating such a joint falls heavily on the operator that you have hired. From their customer service skills to being a steward of your business, it may make or break your undertaking. Compared to profit made from other legal businesses, operating a Rolex joint is a steal. If you didn't know, now you know. Not to make this video any longer than it should, we skipped the first part of making a chapati, but I'll leave a link in the video description below on a step-by-step process on how to make one. Like any popular product or service, inspiration from its design usually leads to birth of other closely related ones. And with the Ugandan Rolex, there have been variations to it, including the Titanic, which is having more than 2 or more chapatis than necessary. Then there is the Chikomando, which is basically a replacement of the omelette part of the Rolex with beans.
Évolution.
The Rolex has evolved. You will find it filled with sausages, bacon, chicken, beef, different cheeses, avocado, mayonnaise, and even gravy. And while its recognition started as a staple for college students and for a population with very low means, its customer base has also progressed.
I think I need 2 more.
It has over the years become widely accepted, even featuring on menus in modern restaurants, hotels, and popular cafes like Cafe Javas. But many Ugandans argue that nothing beats the street version, by mostly the smoky frying pan which has been used for a long time. Recreating the tastes and the smells of the street Rolex is quite difficult, and now it's ranked as the fastest growing new African fast food by CNN and the BBC. Amid this local and international recognition, some people have argued that calling and promoting the Ugandan delicacy as the Rolex accounts to trademark infringement against the watch brand Rolex, which is famous for making high-end watches and regarded as a status symbol worldwide. The argument is given that Ugandans ought to name the food snack by another name. But let's face it, if you go to any street corner in Uganda and you ask for a Rolex, no one's going to think that you're asking to be directed to a jewelry shop. The Ugandan Rolex is not about to be renamed. In Uganda, we don't wear the Rolex, we eat it. That's what you will read on t-shirts of many tourists. It's a highlight of their visit. In Africa, especially in Uganda, the Rolex is in its own right a geographical indication. What comes to mind when you think of tacos, spices, vodka, hamburger, wine, noodles, beer, pizza, matoke? See what I just did there? Public figures like Bobby Wine have indicated that our arts and culture are a more effective way of promoting our country's tourism sector rather than using the Rolex because the chapati is Indian bread and eggs are not exclusively Ugandan. So the art of rolling them together wouldn't be a reason enough for any tourist to come and see. Now I like Bobby Wine, but I strongly disagree with him on this point. Tesla did not invent cars, nor did they invent rechargeable car batteries, but say something about electric car vehicles and the name Tesla is there.
Okay, did this guy just compare a whole Tesla to a Ugandan Chapati?
Other public figures like Mafabi have said, and quote, like really? We are stooping lower and lower. Which Unix came up with such an appalling idea of marketing a Rolex now? I believe we would do the country much good in tourism revenue if the government promoted Imbalu circumcision as an annual festival than this Rolex thing, end quote. Imbalu circumcision is a cultural event that takes place every 2 years in eastern Uganda. Nandali Mafabi is a Ugandan politician hailing from eastern Uganda. On the surface, the Rolex may make us come off like a bunch of jokers, but culture identity not based on any one specific tribe but an entire country can actually be derived from a simple food choice. You will now find the Rolex everywhere in Uganda. It has become a star attraction at annual festivals like the Nyega Nyega music festivals held in Jinja. We have a Rolex festival in Kampala which brings in everyone from students to politicians and offers entertainment. Godfrey Chiwanda, a member of parliament and the junior minister of tourism, wildlife and antiquities, has publicly endorsed the Rolex as the proudly Ugandan product. But it has also found new markets abroad, like the neighboring Kenya, Tanzania and Rwanda, and even in Berlin and Denmark. And the reason for its easy acceptance from the international community is from its looks and preparation. It does resemble the Durham and the burrito. While we will never know the original Rolex vendor, the unsung hero that had run out of packaging for his customers, hence his invention, the Ugandan Rolex encompasses the very essence of the true Ugandan spirit of ingenuity and improvisation amid this scarcity of resources. Think of Matoke, the Baganda and the Banyankole tribes come to mind. Think of grasshoppers and the Baganda tribe comes to mind. Akalo and the far west and far east tribes come to mind. And while to some, promoting the Rolex makes us look like a bunch of comics, it remains the only food item that has effectively brought people together from all walks of life. Rich, poor, young, old, local, foreign, political party A, party B, and so on. Given its popularity and the fact that how it's made actually depends on the cook or the one that has made an order for it, makes the Rolex a true piece of democracy. What if it is our gateway to a united global economy? After all, as humans, a hearty meal is all what we have in common.